Education in the United States takes a number of different forms. We have preschool education, but preschool education is rather weak in the United States. It's run more by private organizations, people who put their children in schools at firms, and it's definitely not universal. In fact, there are a lot of families that do not give their children preschool education, but prefer to keep them at home. School starts for most American children at the age of 6, and they continue with their studies then from the age of 6 until the age of 18. We generally experience 12 years of education. The first 8 years are considered primary elementary school. The last 4 years we call high school. And of course, one of the first things that children learn is reading and writing, and then of course how to make calculations, arithmetic. Later on in high school, other kinds of subjects will be taken, as well as language. Some of the problems in school and university education are, one, the racial problem, especially in a city like Los Angeles, the city which I'm from. We often see racial conflicts in schools. We have representatives of a number of different racial groups there: Koreans, Black Americans, Japanese Americans, Hispanic Americans. And sometimes it's not easy for them to understand each other. And so in school and university education, we sometimes have conflicts between different racial groups of people. And unfortunately, in big American cities, there's also the problem of narcotics in school and of students that carry guns. So occasionally we hear of students being killed in American schools. This is not the case in general, probably only in the bigger cities and in the inner city schools. In many smaller schools, smaller towns, schools are very involved with community activities, community affairs. You have parental interest in the school and in the children's education. In university education, some of the problems that have seemed apparent to me are, one, the lack of commitment of students to getting a good education. I think because of the relative prosperity of America, we have students that don't really feel they need a university education to make a living and to make their way in life. And so because of this, some of them are not really so interested in trying to find a place, trying to get a good education or a college degree. I think another thing that a lot of students would complain about today would be the rising cost of university education. In private universities, this is especially true. You have students that are paying sometimes $5,000 and more per semester. That would be around $10,000 a year for university education. And obviously that kind of money is not easy to come up with. And as a result, you have students who borrow money to pay their bills. Some of them end up in debt. This is especially difficult for students that don't actually graduate with a degree, because they have student loans that are not paid. Also, they don't have the extra marketability that a degree would give them. And so this can be somewhat of a problem. I think if I was a minister of education in the United States, federal government or in a state government, I think one of the first things I would change would be to place a greater emphasis on language, especially in the first years of school and the primary years. Although we have a lot of bright American students and a lot of bright students in the early years of school, American students in general are not really learning language. And this can create somewhat of a problem because it is more difficult to learn language later on. And so as a result, there's a relatively low percentage of Americans that can speak another language. And within America itself, often this does not pose a problem for people because they tend to meet other people that are native English speakers. But in some states this is not true. For example, in California, a great percentage of the population is Spanish speaking. And so right now, people need to be learning languages. America is becoming more international, but we don't really have the emphasis in education that we need on languages. And I think another thing that I would change if I was a minister of education, would be to place a greater emphasis also on moral education or on moral values education. In our emphasis on freedom of thought in America, often we become paranoid of teaching values, and as a result, we have children and young people that go through their school years and even their college years without really having a moral foundation for life. Now, obviously, this in itself could pose a problem because there are so many different ideas about what the basis or the fundamental ideas of morality should be. But some things in general people in different religious groups agree on, including justice, concepts of justice, human rights. There needs to be more of an emphasis on these things. Society needs to operate in a just and a tolerant way. And one of the problems is when no morality is taught is that people end up failing to realize the importance of justice and the importance of respecting other people groups, tolerating other ideas, helping to create a just and tolerant society. I myself